Pizza.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, I'm Aaron,
And I'm John,
and this is Pastors and Pizza,
a podcast where two normal pastors
or abnormal,
consume some of the best
and worst,
pizzas that the area has to offer.
while trying to make sense of our faith and figure out how it connects with the world around us.
We believe that the best conversations happen over food.
So if you're hungry for spiritual nourishment
Craving some honest conversations,
and always up for a good slice,
pull up a chair, grab a slice,
pour a cold one, unless you're driving, of course.
and get ready to savor the flavors of faith
Chew on some thought-provoking discussions
and satisfy your craving for both pizza and a deeper connection with God.
on Pastors and Pizza.
Hey, welcome back to Pastors and Pizza.
Hey now, good to see you.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is our first video version of Pastors and Pizza.
Welcome.
Good to see you.
So glad you're here. Thanks for taking time on your day.
If you're listening like you've traditionally done, then maybe check out the YouTube video. It's going to be on our channel, Crossfire Church video channel on YouTube.
I
Or-
look better on podcasts.
We both have faces for audio. So continue listening to audio if you want to do that. If you want to check out YouTube,
Absolutely.
here it is. We've got some stuff in store, I think, coming up to enhance the video a little bit. We'll see how that goes.
Enhance. I'm going to look better.
Well, not that much enhancement is
Oh,
possible.
We don't have that kind of
unfortunately.
budget.
Yeah,
No, that's fair.
our special effects department doesn't exist. So
Wow. Makeup.
yeah. So anyway, we're back. Pastors and Pizza. Aaron, how's it going?
You know, John, it's going well. There's been a lot lately, but nothing crazy that God can't handle. That's for sure.
Well, we'll get into the what's happening stuff here in a minute, but let's talk some pizza. We literally just got back a few minutes ago
Yes, we did.
from a place called the White Buffalo Saloon.
Pub and eatery.
It was a little confusing. They've got a sign on the outside. Maybe we'll show you the picture, but it says White Buffalo Saloon, Pub and Eatery. Now, in my experience,
Yeah.
usually it's a saloon or it's a pub or it's a tavern or it's a bar. It's not usually multiple of those things.
They're just letting you know we're here for business.
Yeah.
And lots of it. Yeah, it was good. You guys, you'll know you're there when you look on top of the roof and there's a large white buffalo.
I think that has to do with the name,
Oh, gosh.
White Buffalo. It's not alive though, so don't worry about it jumping off of there. It's a statue.
And it's not stuffed, so we're not cruelty to animals.
Yeah, it's a fake buffalo. But you guys, maybe you've heard of White Buffalo, maybe you haven't heard of White Buffalo. I had not heard of White Buffalo, even though I probably had passed it a lot of times.
Lots of times. Yeah.
Because it's right on Evergreen Way, aka Highway 99,
Mhm.
in kind of south-ish Everett, kind of between South Everett and downtown Everett.
It is, definitely.
Yeah, and I grew up in Linwood, and so I drove Highway 99 quite a bit back in the day. And my favorite burger place is just down the road called Nick's Jr.'s, just up the street from White Buffalo. So I've passed White
You
Buffalo.
like that better than Dick's Drive-In?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Sorry.
Dick's is. I mean, Dick's has. That's a totally different podcast.
Okay,
let's
sorry,
skip the
sorry.
burger talk. But so White Buffalo, Everett, Highway 99, aka Evergreen Way. May miss it if you aren't looking for the White Buffalo. But I got tipped off to this place actually a little over a year ago by the Herald.
Oh, that's right.
So the Herald, you guys are probably familiar, is
Yeah.
the Everett Herald, the local newspaper, kind of serves Snohomish County. Every year they do some kind of Reader's Choice Awards, and one of the things that they do is best pizza in Snohomish County.
Huh.
Now it's not a very scientific survey or poll or ranking.
Like when
'cause-
we did our 5 pepperonis.
Yeah, well, we
ranking.
were very precise, but
So
they
precise.
ask for reader suggestions, and then they have people vote on those suggestions. And so it's really subject to just who's going to speak up about a particular place.
We probably
and
should have
then-
told Sassy Cassie that we heard about them from the Everett Herald.
We maybe should have, yeah. So anyway, for 2022, so these results came out in January of 23, so a little bit over a year ago. They had the best pizza of 2022. White Buffalo was third. in Snohomish County by these readers
We're number
of
3.
the nominated
We're number
choices.
3. Yeah.
So it was interesting because I hadn't heard of it before. I hadn't eaten there before, but it also was maybe a bit discredited because number 2 was Papa Murphy's.
Ooh.
And I don't mind Papa Murphy's.
I actually love Papa Murphy's.
But it's not the second best pizza on just about any list, unless it's a take and bake list, maybe.
Yeah, and I would say it's definitely top 3 on take and bake.
Yeah, I mean, I'd get take and bake maybe from Costco. I don't think they do that anymore. But
I don't know if they do. And Alfie's does it still.
Alfie's, I don't know if I've ever done an Alfie's one though.
You don't really love Alfie's.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Alfie's. Anyway, we'll get to the pizza. So Buffalo, White Buffalo, they've got a pretty limited menu actually on their pizzas. They give you kind of, I think, 5 or 6 kind of signature pizzas, and then you can just make your own with their topping options, right? And we were made aware of the special of the month after we had already eaten our pizza.
We kind of blew that.
Which we might have liked better than what we got. But Aaron, tell them what we got.
We got the white sauce chicken, which ironically was John's rap name in high school.
We did not get the white sauce chicken.
Oh, gosh, I'd take that back. I just love that name. We got the bomb, John. And that had chicken and lots of it. Artichoke hearts, bacon bits, sun-dried tomatoes. It does have mushrooms. We didn't get mushrooms because we hate that. It's got black olives. It's got onions. And then it's served with their like white sauce, which is kind of a spruced up ranch that's supposed to have garlic and seasoning. And I will say this, and this is no slam on them, the sauce was not like exceptional. It was okay. And on a couple of pieces, I didn't even necessarily taste it.
Yeah, it was probably a little more subtle than you maybe would like. And we're on a bit of a trend now. This is 2 episodes in a row where our pizza has had the name bomb in it. I mean, you can't say that on an airplane.
Bomb, 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 bomb.
Sir, you can't say bomb on an airplane.
What movie is that from?
Tell us in the comments.
Okay.
All right, so the bomb. Last time we got Edgar's Long Bomb. This time we got the bomb. And there was an explosion of flavors in my mouth.
That was a grenade I was willing to fall on.
Nice, nice. So Aaron told you all of the flavors. Like you said, the sauce was probably a little more subtle. It's a chicken pizza, so that's already maybe a little bit subtle or bland.
The chicken was seasoned pretty well. I mean, there was a lot of it, so you could taste it. That was the thing, though, about this thing. They did not skimp on the toppings.
Yeah.
There was a lot of toppings.
Tons of toppings. So yeah, it's a pretty hefty slice when you're holding it. It definitely risks falling apart because it's a little heavy. If you gotta adequately support it like a baby's head.
Wow.
And maybe not in your arm, but
and then you eat that baby?
No, that's where the analogy dies.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't.
Dies, as it were.
That's where it blows up.
Oh, you guys! Now you get to see us.
Yeah, this is a treat, a special treat. Anyway, overall thoughts. You talked about the sauce, talked about the toppings, the amount of just the girth, if you will. What other thoughts?
Honestly, it was midday at this pub/eatery/salon. Wait, saloon, not salon. That's one thing.
Were people getting their hair done? I didn't see that.
You did. No.
I didn't get my hair done there.
They treated us right. There was it Marcella?
Yeah, I think so.
So Marcella, who is being trained, and then Cassie, they did a wonderful job. There's a lot of people in there, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
For a Wednesday afternoon, but we've experienced this now twice, so maybe we just don't get out enough during the week. But yeah.
There's a fair number of people in there. It was kind of your typical, dive-ish kind of a bar. Several pool tables. There's some arcade game things. Lots of pull tabs.
And we didn't try to get any money out of our budget to play the pull tabs. We didn't buy any pull tabs. None at all, actually. So we're good.
He said that he looked a little suspicious though. When he
it really
that.
did, but we actually didn't. So okay. I was just answering the question that somebody.
Yeah, no pull tabs. So yeah, you're not probably going there for the ambiance necessarily, unless you like that kind of thing. And there were several TVs. So if the Mariners came on right as we were kind of leaving, the game came on. So if you wanted to go watch a game and have a cold drink and play some pool, then it seems like a decent spot.
Yeah, I mean, and they were figuring stuff out and training and all that. It wasn't fast. It didn't really bug us. We're hanging out together and talking.
That's if I were to have a complaint. I mean, I like ambiance as part of the experience, and so, but I knew it was a saloon / pub / eatery /
not salon.
Yeah, not salon.
All right.
And so I wasn't expecting it to be like fancy. But the one thing that's probably the biggest disappointment was it took a while to get our pizza. I mean, we got there pretty much right at noon. We didn't leave until about 1:30.
Yeah, and the reality is, if you're going there on a midweek during the day, you're probably going to want to get in and out. So I don't know, maybe that's not normal for them.
Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, the pizza was good. Our server Cassie did ask us on the spot to give it a rating out of 10, and we both hemmed and hawed and didn't give her one.
So if you're watching and listening, you said you were going to. I would legit say high 6 into the 7. It was a good place, good experience, good pizza. Not in probably my top 5.
Yeah, and I'd probably put it right around a 7. It was good. It's definitely better than average. Not probably good enough to get into the upper tier, but it was a solid pizza. And quite honestly, I mean, it's just the style or the flavors that were on it is not what I would normally get. It's kind of you'll think a lot. I mean, you tend to get the white sauce chicken stuff a little bit more than I do. Yeah. But probably not in our wheelhouse as far as what we would prefer. But it's kind of their signature pizza, or at least one of them, and so we decided to go ahead and get that.
And she had asked, like, hey, do you guys want to dip it in ranch or anything? I'm like, nah, let's let it stand on its own. I don't think dipping it in ranch would have been any better.
Yeah, I think it needed a little kick, like
so we added the pepper flakes, which we normally do.
Yeah. So, but overall, pretty good pizza. Decent little spot. They do have a tiny little outdoor patio section. We didn't sit there even though it was sunny, but
yeah, it was kind of the smoking section too, and neither of us smoked, so that wouldn't have been enjoyable. So.
Yeah. So check it out, White Buffalo Saloon out in Everett. Pretty darn good pizza. Not earth shattering, but worth the trip. We did not get into the price. It was a bit spendy. It came to $35.25 for a large pizza, which is probably the most expensive we've gotten so far.
And it was pretty big though.
Yeah, it's a 16-inch large, which is I think bigger than most large pizzas.
Right.
And because there was quite a bit of toppings on there, I mean, a couple slices is pretty filling. We may have each done more than a couple of slices, but we brought some back to the staff here. But for some reason, it did not have tax on the receipt, so I don't know if they just roll that into the menu price and then gave a tip. So we were out the door under $50. Which is not cheap for 2 people at lunchtime, but
and then 3 other people had some.
Yeah, we fed more people with it, so you could probably feed 5-6 people with one of those large pizzas. So
So yeah, I'd say give it a shot. Decent date. I don't know what the night ambiance is like in a bar, pub.
Not
saloon.
sure. Everett night dive bar. Maybe not my vibe, but. Maybe you like that.
During the day, it was cool.
Yeah. So that's it for the pizza talk. We will be back in a minute on Pastors and Pizza.
There's something about your goodness stirring in my soul. There's something about your mercy. It always leads me home. I could never say enough about everything you've done. You're faithful. With the breath that's in my lungs, I just want to lift you up, 'cause I'm grateful. Oh, holy, holy, and we're shouting, worthy, worthy. You deserve the glory, glory. So we're singing now and always, yeah.
All right, we are back on Pastors
Hi.
and Pizza. Again, this is our first foray into the video world of podcasting. Let us know what you think. Give us your comments. We created kind of a little setup here in the church cafe. You see right there in neon, you got Jesus was with us.
And
So-
instead of between two ferns, it's between two pastures. Is a bit of a fern or grass.
fake grassy stuff. But we're going to probably toy around with the setup a little bit here and there. But hopefully it's more appealing than us sitting in the conference room, which is what we had usually done for the podcast.
We'll see. I know that my mom and my wife and maybe one or two of my kids are like, it's appealing to look at Aaron Day. Everybody else is like,
Well, that part probably won't be. I mean, I don't mean us specifically. I just mean the.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, gosh, I
Yeah.
feel a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and there just a little bit. There's a little bit. We'll see how the view count goes and see if this was a good idea or not.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So, Aaron, it's been a little while. I can't remember exactly the last time we got together for this. It's probably been about a month.
Mm-hmm.
What's been happening? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I don't want to take away from yours, and what's been happening in my life includes some of what's happening in yours. So let me put it back to
I mean, we
you.
do work together also.
We do. So let me put it back to you, John. What's been going on for you?
Oh, well, I think you might be referring to the wedding.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm referring to.
So my daughter, Gabrielle, Abalava, Abs, whatever you want to call her.
Abatron.
Abatron's Aaron's one for her. She got married on May 4th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It
You're
was
welcome.
not a Star Wars themed thing, even though it was on May 4th, and she got kind of tired of people asking her about that.
Well, there was a little bit during the dancing. Kind of.
Her brother did bring in some Star Wars elements as part of it because it was May 4th, and
Indeed.
I think probably because it bothered her that everyone asked about May 4th.
And so he wanted to just kind of,
Yeah, I think so. It's
maybe.
just kind of a fun entry. So anyway, so that was over in Chelan on the 4th of May. Aaron officiated the wedding.
that was a lot of fun.
It was a great day. We had fun. We had friends and family there. The weather eventually cooperated mostly.
Ooh-wee.
It was a little chilly.
It got a little cold. I was wearing a hooded jacket, and I looked like I wasn't invited to the party. Picture.
We had one picture where Aaron's just in the background behind all the people sitting at the tables, and he's got his hood up, and yeah, he looks like he came out of the woods and he's gonna try and kill somebody or something. I don't know.
None of that. I was just trying to kill some food. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody said something about food.
Yeah. There's a party going on right here. A celebration to last throughout the year.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was fun. Great time. It's a little bit weird still getting used to the whole idea that she's married, and I've
Like
got
a week later,
got a son-in-law, and
they show up at church. That was
Yeah.
cool. That was really cool.
Yeah. So, but it was a good time. My wife
Hey, you guys.
wife did a great job planning
Oh
and
my goodness.
executing. We had
she
lots
did.
of friends and family help out with various aspects.
It was
it
cool.
was great. It was
Just
really great.
seeing that community. John wouldn't say this, so I'm going to say it. Father of the bride toast was amazing. It was so good, John. It was honoring to the Lord, honoring to your daughter, to your wife, to your family, to the whole situation. You did a great job, man.
Thank you.
Really proud of you.
And you're right. I wouldn't have said that.
Nope. And I am right. So for me, lots of stuff. Baseball's over, which in some ways is really a bummer. In other ways, frees up so much of my schedule. Grateful for that. Hanging out, having some pretty deep conversations with some family members and getting into some real life stuff. It's been good, but definitely draining.
Yeah.
Excited about the book of Romans and the study that we're doing at church because it's, the series all the way through September. It's having some really good fruit, and God's getting after some things in people's lives. So
Cool.
that's like a quick snapshot of what's happening.
Yeah. So one thing that has not happened yet, but is coming up that we want to make sure you guys know about is we are actually going to be doing a Pastors and Pizza live episode.
Yeah.
We did this back in August. We recorded it live. We did not stream it live. Or this time, we're going to live stream it and have a live audience and record and all that stuff.
So
and
no more cussing, John.
Yeah, the edit option won't be available live. So join us May 30th. It's going to be right here at Crosswater Community Church in Sultan. We'd love to know if you're coming, so please go to crosswaterchurch.org/events. Let us know that you're coming. We're going to try and answer your questions
Come up with some questions,
yeah,
please.
and really, we're not putting a whole lot of limitations on this. I mean, we probably just won't bring up some if they're nasty or weird. Or
we don't think you're going to go nasty, but veto privileges are in place.
So yeah, there's no guarantee we're going to answer your question, but we would love to have you submit those. We've got questions about us personally, about the church, about the podcast, about pizza, about life.
Definitely about the word. I am far from a vaunted Bible scholar, but I love being able to research things.
Yeah, so we'd love to have that. It's going to be 6:30. We are going to be having red pepper pizza, which is a local establishment here in Sultan. We did it a few episodes ago on the show, but we're going to have that for everybody that attends in person. And so obviously we need to know how many people are coming so we can order for that. But let us know by, I can't remember what date we said, but if you at least a couple days before the 30th would be ideal. But we'd love to see you here Thursday night, May 30th, right here at Crosswater. Come out and join us, get some pizza, have some fun, meet
Come
some
see
people.
this sign. Come see these guys. Maybe this grass will be here.
Okay. It'll be around somewhere. But anyway, that's going to be happening. But wanted to let you know about that. Love to have you join us. One thing that we did not do last time, Aaron, that I've got something, I don't know if you do, is we've kind of been trying to share some resources, some things that have been helpful for us personally. Got anything along those lines that you want to talk about?
You guys, this is a repeat, but I've really, over the past probably 8 days, really enjoyed it. It's gotquestions.org. Go there. You may not love the answers that they give to you, but they're so biblically based, so strong in that. Give you a lot to think about. So literally you have questions that say you want to know what it means to be somebody who is gosh, what's the right word I want to use? Any questions you have about the Bible? I was trying to think of something super clever. I'm in a small group and we're all kinds of different things in the book of Revelation. So where you're at with the tribulation, where you are with the rapture, they just give you a lot of explanation of what these things are. And they even break down Bible books and what stands out about them, themes and all that kind of stuff. So gotquestions.org. What about you?
So I was reminded today, actually, of a pretty cool resource. Full disclosure, it's a site to buy things. So, I mean, you talked
we're
about,
not sponsored.
You talked about christianbook.com last time, or 2 times ago. I can't remember when it was. It's crossway.org. And Crossway is the publisher of the ESV Bible, the English Standard Version, which is what we use here at Crosswater. But they've got tons of Bible options there. They also have tons of books on there, lots of great authors. And so we've bought a lot of stuff from Crossway, read a lot of their stuff. But today I was reminded they've got a new Bible that's a spiral-bound scripture journal Bible.
Oh, cool.
And so we've used some of their scripture journal Bibles before that are kind of the regular book binding. And they're super awesome. They're helpful.
The Romans, right?
Yeah, we're doing the book of Romans. We got those for a large portion of our congregation. But these are spiral bound, so that means that they lay flat, which is nice if you're actually wanting to take notes, which is what it's intended for. It's a journaling Bible. Yeah. And so one of the problems with a regular book is it doesn't lay flat, and so it can be a little tough to write in. So this is spiral bound, so it'll kind of wrap behind and it can lay flat and easier to take notes. I have not actually used it, but I thought it was pretty cool. It's five different journals, if you will. They break it down by the Pentateuch, poetry, New Testament. So they've got five. So you can either buy them individually or you can buy the complete set.
Oh man!
And the reason that I was reminded of it is because I'm what's called a Crossway Plus member. Wow! So there's a free membership that you can get on Crossway that gets you discounts, and their standard discount is 30% off of whatever you're getting, 1 through 9 copies of whatever that is. If you get 10 or more copies, you get 40% off.
Hey.
Well, they've got a special right now on the scripture journals where it's 40% off of 1 to 9 and 50% off of 10 or more. And so pretty good deal.
If they want to get one of those, should they give you a call?
I mean, you could call me. I could walk you through it. But no, just go to crossway.org. Sign up for the Crossway Plus membership.
Oh, so anybody can.
Yeah,
you don't have to order a bunch, and it's like you hit these benchmarks, and then you get to be a plus.
Anybody that's a Crossway Plus member.
All right.
For 1 through 9 copies, it's normally 30%. and then it's 40% if you're doing 10 or more copies. I mean, an individual probably doesn't need 10 copies of anything.
Unless you're giving them out for
But yeah,
Christmas,
maybe-
which is right around the corner.
Maybe grad gifts. Speaking of which,
that's right around the corner.
Speaking of which, there is a new version of the New Morning Mercies devotional, which we've
Yes,
talked about before.
yes.
It's a journaling version of that. So
Is
you
that
can take
also a
notes.
Crossway?
It's on Crossway.
And
Everything on Crossway. If you're a Crossway Plus member, you automatically get a discount.
But I mean, he has
Paul David Tripp.
Paul David Tripp. He's got his own website, but
It's probably
sells his-
available on there too.
sells his stuff through Crossway.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So check it out. It's a lot of talk about Crossway. We are not paid by them, but like I said, we've gotten lots of books. We've read
If
lots
for
of things.
whatever reason though that you're scrolling through and you're from Crossway and you want to sponsor us, here we are.
Yeah. Hashtag Crossway. Hashtag
Hashtag.
endorsement. All right. Anyway, that's it for kind of the what's happening and the resources. Unless you got something else you want to share.
No, I'm just gonna take a little rest right now.
All right, we're gonna take a quick little cat nap, rejuvenate for our main discussion that's coming up. We're gonna get a little rest in. So we'll be back here in a minute on Pastors and
See you
Pizza.
guys later.
See you.
Blessed are the ones who walk in your way. Oh, the sin doesn't take the life from their souls. Strong you will make their skin and their bones. Oh, the wind cannot blow what your hands have made. Oh, the wind cannot blow what your hands have made.
Hey, Aaron, we're back.
Where? Back where? Oh, hey, hi. Welcome back to Pastors and Pizza and getting a nap.
Did you get a good rest?
You know, I need rest.
We all need rest.
I think we do. I didn't get the best rest just now. My neck's a little bit stiff.
These aren't. I mean, unless you really just curl up in these chairs, it's probably not the best. Or you could slouch a lot, I guess. Get your
And
head
that's
on.
the thing. I'm already slouchy looking. And if my friend Eric and also chiropractor Eric, same guy, by the way, are watching this, I just made you sound like two people. All right, then I shouldn't be slouching. This chair is hard not to slouch in. And if I sit up, I feel like I'm hunching over on top of that. Plus, I'm 5'7", 5'8", and so my feet don't always feel like they touch the floor on things. My feet, I'm short. Gotta go around the horn. That's how
Wow,
I feel.
that was a long answer to a question about whether you're about
It was a
resting.
good
there.
rest.
So the reason we were talking rest is because that's going to be our topic today.
Well, what exactly are we talking about with regards to rest? Like good rest stops to stop by, good restaurants?
Are
to
there
go
good
to?
rest stops? I guess it's relative, but
If you have to go pee, they could be great rest stops.
I mean the one between Stevens Pass and Leavenworth is a decent rest stop.
And
but-
also not very far from where my daughter, Tiana, and her husband, Domingo, my son-in-law, got married. Not too far away from there, actually.
Good. The guest bathrooms were
We
hop in the
that's
car,
where-
go down the road.
That's where people could go to the restroom. But it was in the woods, so there was also other places.
All right.
Not
Well,
saying, I'm just saying.
So we're sitting here May 15th. Sun's out. This is about
out.
when we start to see at church the kind of the decline for the summer. You know, people
And
aren't-
by decline, you mean people start to kind of leave and then they come back.
yeah, people. I mean, hopefully they come back. But yeah,
Some
people
don't.
people just aren't as consistently around during the nice months of the year
Mhm.
for various reasons.
Mhm.
Largely because they're on vacation, they're camping, they're doing sports or different things like that.
Absolutely.
And so summer is typically a time where I think most people try to take some amount of break or vacation,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so we thought, hey, let's talk about rest, not vacation specifically, but more rest as we head into that time of the year, and just kind of talk through what does it look like, why do we do it, why do we need it, what are the possible dangers with it, what's the good stuff with it, just kind of have a discussion about
Yeah,
that.
it's good. And there's, as always, you guys, there's so much to talk about with this. I don't want to just direct the conversation, but I will say this topic has been on my mind with all of what John said, but also the coming off of this idea that there's rest and rest for our souls in Jesus, a peace that passes understanding, and that comes off of being in Romans 5, and that we have peace with God. And so that got me thinking a ton about rest and what does that look like.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you don't have to read very far into Scripture if
Mhm.
you start at the beginning.
Literally in Genesis 2.
Yeah, so it's biblically modeled by God
Mm-hmm.
that we would rest. I think we all agree, at least, fundamentally, philosophically, that rest is important.
Yep.
We don't necessarily all do a good job of doing it.
Oh no.
But we would all probably acknowledge, yeah, rest is good for us. I don't know if we as much acknowledge that rest can also be bad for us, depending on how we do it, how long we do it, how much we do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Slothfulness or just no activity. I mean, just going up the stairs sometimes for me, because I try to do 2 at a time, I get tired quick, and that means because I'm resting too much. Or how about this? Not exercising enough. I don't know about rest, because there's a lot of different ways we can have rest. So there you go.
Yeah, and so yeah, there's a lot of pieces, and like with most topics, we're not going to be able to exhaust it.
Mm-mm.
We're not going to talk about everything, but we're going to try and give you kind of a somewhat well-rounded discussion on it. And maybe you think, why are we even talking about naps and rest, and like, what's the point of this? Well, we think it's important to have a good perspective on it, to do it well, but to not overdo it.
Well, and so to that point, it does matter what people think, but what really matters is what God thinks. And you said it, John. You cannot get very far in the Bible, in the creation story. At the end of creation, day 7, God takes a rest.
Right.
Not because he was tired, but setting an example, making that day holy. And then Sabbath gets talked about all the way through the Bible into the New Testament. And so it's obviously important to God. Jesus even said, "Come to me if you're tired and weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest for your souls."
Yeah.
And so rest is important and valuable. Why does God say that's important? Why is it important for us? Why do we abuse it? Why don't we do it? Where do you want to start with this? You're much better at directing a conversation than me.
Well, yeah. So let's maybe start with what are we even really talking about when we say rest?
Mhm.
We've brought up a lot of different words here in this intro. We brought up vacation, we brought up rest, we brought up naps, we brought up laziness, we brought up sloth, so there's a lot of aspects and things. So what if we're talking about resting well,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say? How do we want to define rest? Are we talking about just chilling somewhere, vegging, sleeping, being lazy? What are we talking about?
Yeah, therein lies, like, if I have to encapsulate it, all those things make sense to me. But I find rest kind of in this idea of what Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Find rest in God, slowing down your mind, slowing down your life, slowing down your performance, all the different stresses that we have, and finding time in God, being still and knowing that he's God. So that for me would be where I'm aiming at. I do think that on our frenetic paced environment, slowing down is important, but we have an entire group of people, and it's not just one generation, that literally just kind of sit around on their screens.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I'm not talking about that kind of rest where you just cease activity.
Yeah.
I'm talking about your mind and your heart, like slowing down,
Yeah.
coming to God with your anxieties and your pressures and all the different things.
Yeah. So you've seen the movie WALL-E, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in the movie WALL-E, they have to leave Earth because of environmental conditions. I don't remember all the details, but they're up in space on the spaceship, and they're basically just doing nothing. Like they're in these little hover scooter things, right? And they're all overweight and lazy and unhealthy because they're literally doing nothing, right? That's not what we're talking about.
Nope. No. I do think sometimes people need to slow down like that.
Yeah.
Actually. but no, not go on a cruise, eat, sit, do nothing all the time.
Yeah.
But like we do need to be able to find rest. You and I talked about this a little bit. Something came to my mind earlier today, that idea of rest in peace, or RIP, and that's in the people die, so rest in peace. There's only peace in God, and you can rest in peace before you die. This peace that passes understanding is found in Jesus. So where you daily taking time to slow down, connect with Him, the old word would be centering yourself in the Word, even meditation and prayer. And so I think that's the kind of thing, not the be unhealthy, don't have any physical activity, but you can also go too far on that and have too much physical activity and it wrecks your body.
Right. Yeah. So like with most of the things we talk about, there's a balance, there's a proper perspective,
Absolutely.
right? And so yeah, for this discussion, what we're talking about really then is rest has an element of rejuvenation.
Yes.
Right. It's a restoration.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just an escape. It's not just to do nothing.
Refueling,
Right?
even.
Yeah. And so so there needs to be some mindfulness. There needs to be some intentionality. Time with God, kind of get recentered, refocused, like you talked about. So this idea. So when you're done resting, you're ready to then do the things that need to be done. So like back to God and creation, right? He rested so that he's then able to continue his work, and that's what he models for us with Sabbath, is that we are to rest from work,
right,
so that we can focus on him, focus on relationships, focus on those around us, but then be ready and rejuvenated to do the work that we have the rest of the week.
Absolutely. And you and I both agree, John, and I'm sure you guys agree too. This is not a God was tired and needed to rest the dogs and refresh. He was always working, he's always creative, he's always God. But he modeled that for us. Jesus modeled it. Jesus did get tired. Jesus did take a nap, all these kind of things. And so, with that, we're recognizing that that's not something our society does well. We go to one end of the extreme or the other generally on it. And so, let me ask you, John, coming off of going back to the Pentateuch, you've got Genesis, Exodus. Both of them have a lot to say about Sabbath and slowing down, or at least for sure Exodus does. It's literally one of the 10 Commandments. I think it's the fourth one. Yeah. So is God saying to us, if you don't take a full 24 hours, you're completely dishonoring me. I need you to do this. Excuse me. You need to do this. That's why I instituted it. And you're dishonoring me if you don't take 24 hours off.
That's a tricky question,
It is.
Later, and Jesus talks about the Sabbath and what it was created for, right?
And that man wasn't made for Sabbath.
Yeah,
the Sabbath
it's created
was made
for us, right? So it's for our benefit. But obeying God is always honoring to God, and always, disobeying God is always dishonoring to God, right? Amen. And so there's no way around that aspect. But the point of Sabbath is for our benefit.
That's good.
And so let's talk about maybe some of the benefits. Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think most of us, fundamentally, philosophically need to be encouraged to rest. I think we all understand that. We don't all do it, right? And so even summer vacations, all those things, we may take time off of work, or we may take time off of certain responsibilities. Doesn't mean we're really resting. How often do you hear people go on vacation and they come back and they're like, man, I'm just happy to be able to get a vacation from my vacation.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Well, and
I'm more exhausted than before they left.
Exactly. Nate Headinga said that oftentimes when they would go on vacation, he felt like he got a little bit of a break. But Amy, it was like doing childcare on location.
Yeah.
Right? It was doing life on location. Now it's with less of the amenities and more stress.
Yeah.
And so
and it depends on how you do it too. Like, I mean, I like to camp, but camping's a lot of work.
Oh, gosh.
Right? You gotta pack all the stuff. You're making all your own food, and you're putting up a tent. You're doing it's a lot of work. Right? It is. So you come back and you're not necessarily, depending on how long you're there and who helped and all that kind of stuff. There's varying levels, but it's not necessarily super relaxing. all of the
Mm,
time,
no,
right? I mean, hopefully you've
no.
got time at the fire, you go to the lake and you fish, or you do, whatever that's relaxing. But there's a lot of times our vacations are not relaxing. And so let's talk, like I said, about what are maybe some benefits
Yep.
of resting well before we maybe get into some ideas for how you can do a better
No,
job.
that's good. And again, so on the practical level, I think the benefit for resting is honoring God, like we talked about. Like told us to slow down, maybe even that whole "be still" Psalm 46:10. Along with that, we weren't made to just keep going, keep
Yeah.
going, keep going, keep going. We've got to be able to get away from having all the plates spin, which in some ways, when you go on vacation, you're able to do that. You're less stressed at work. Maybe for some people it takes 2 or 3 days to really unwind or whatever. And so I think the benefit is to slow down, to get your mind in a spot where you can have conversations that aren't interrupted by screens or interrupted by crazy schedule. And that's why it's hard, because some people go on vacation and they're like, well, we got to see this, we got to see this, we got to see this, got to see this. All that can be fun,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really slow them down sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the benefits. What do you think? What's one
Yeah,
of the
and I'm guilty of that, especially if it's a place I haven't been before. Like you go to Hawaii or you go some new
man,
locations.
yeah.
Like I want to go see all the things, do all the things. My wife's like, let's
Eat
just
all the
take a
food.
nap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to. I can sleep at home. Let's go, right? And so I definitely feel that. But
That's good.
yeah, so I think your physical health. You've mentioned that a little bit. Like
Mhm.
we're not designed to just go. Our bodies will break down. We will get sick. We will get injured. Right? So there's
That's
a
right.
physical benefit to just resting and slowing down, let your body recover, let your body rejuvenate, like we talked about.
Mhm.
But it also, I think, goes to our mental capacity or ability too. It's like if you just get so much going on in your head, and you're just thinking about so much, you
That's
got so
right.
much anxiety, and you got stress, and you got all these things. Being able to take some time to truly rest and refocus, recenter, it allows your mind to just take a break, right? And
Very
then it
good.
rejuvenates your mind as well, and mentally you're going to be better off.
That's so
Yeah.
good. And I quoted this: we don't find rest until we find it in the Lord. I think vacation can be one of the more challenging times for me
Yeah.
to stay in the time where I get into the Word, the time where I have devotional, because I'm sleeping in or things are just kind of wild on vacation. And so I think the intentionality of taking a break is a break with the Lord, not like apart from the Lord.
Yeah, and I agree. I think sometimes I don't think it's usually intentional, but again, if you're going on vacation, you're camping, you're going somewhere, right? Do I pack my big old Bible? I just do it on my phone, whatever, right?
Then
And
the
a lot of
phone's
times it just gets
distracting.
skipped, right? And so you end up
Yep.
taking a vacation from God when really that's probably going to be the most productive thing for you if you're trying to find rest, is to dig more
exactly.
into God. But it's so common and so easy when we go on vacations. Like, well, I'm leaving my Bible at home. I'm not going to church. Which, I mean, those aren't necessarily bad things in and of themselves, right? But you don't want to forego the thing that's probably the most beneficial for you.
Exactly.
And yet we do, so easily, myself included. So it's just something to be thinking about. But a couple more benefits. You guys, probably none of these are new to you, but maybe slowing down and just thinking about them will help. But you actually become more productive if you allow yourself some time to rest. It seems kind of counterintuitive, because you're like, I've got so much to do, I can't stop and stop doing those things. I've got to keep going. But a lot of times we get so worn out, and we get so just busy and crazy and all that stuff, that we actually start losing productivity, because we're either spread too thin or we're just tired. And so if you take a little bit of time and you take a break, you rest, you get rejuvenated, you can actually come back stronger and be more productive than if you were to just keep going.
Amen. And it's wild. You think of nature, right? And I don't know, as I look outside this cafe windows, I see these trees and these bushes and spring, and everything's kind of in bloom. We have a dear friend who comes here and trims things back. there's a cutting back literally
Yeah.
that pruning and trimming envelops, and that's for there to be growth.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that rest affords us, is that a chance to, but we're like, okay, if I rest, if I sleep, then I get up on the next day and I got to hit the ground running and all that. It's not always that quick. It's having what I have been able to understand and to really exercise fairly consistently, a daily Sabbath, a daily rest in the Lord, where I just slow down and spend some time with him and get myself kind of balanced, get myself, and then I'm sometimes not hoping, okay, from that I got to hit the ground running and go for it. But he says, if you're tired and weary and burdened, come to me. And I think that invitation isn't just when you're exhausted and you need a 1 week vacation. And the Sabbath was made for the man and not man for the Sabbath. Then what's the blessing in there? It's to be replenished, to be refreshed, to be reinvigorated, and to go about your life, right? As you go.
Yeah, and it does take intentionality. Like,
It
there's one
does.
thing we do here as a staff at Crosswater. On the first Monday of each month, we do something called Day with God. And instead of coming into the office, it's Monday. Normally, that's our staff meeting day. We've got other meetings that are happening that day. And instead of doing all of those things, we say, hey, go spend whatever your number of hours looks like on a typical Monday. For us, we're full time, so it's a full day. Others is part time, so it's maybe a few hours. But spend that time, instead of coming into work, and go spend it with God, intentionally spending time with God. And whatever that looks like. Maybe it's going on a hike, maybe it's getting into the Word, maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's listening to worship music, whatever that looks like, to get rejuvenated, to get refocused, to be able to come back the rest of that week, the month, and be invigorated and ready to do the things that need to get done,
So
right?
good.
So we do that intentionally. Sometimes it's hard to actually do that, 'cause it's like,
really
we got things
is.
to do. We've got an event, we got
Really
this, we got
is.
that. We got things we got to decide, and so it can be hard to be like, no, we're taking that first Monday, and we're taking the time off, and we're going to spend time with God intentionally. And so that's a benefit. Anytime you rest intentionally like that is an opportunity for kind of this spiritual rejuvenation, right? One thing I've also noticed, and I saw this a little bit at the wedding. I was running around, obviously, lots going on, lots of people I hadn't seen, lots of things to make sure are happening, whatever. So it wasn't completely restful. But one of the things that was really cool about the wedding was just the relationships, right? The people, the family,
Loved
the friends
watching that. That was
were
so
were
cool.
there. That if you don't stop to have a celebration like we had and invite people, then you don't get to have those conversations. You don't get to see those people, and so you have to have that intentionality. But having time to rest allows you to kind of enhance or improve your relationships. A lot of times as a married person, right, you're just kind of like ships in the night passing one another, right? You got practices, or you got work, or you got the whatever event that you got to go to, or the school thing, or whatever. And so a lot of times it can just be go, and you're barely having a time to sit and just engage with one another.
That's right.
And so taking a vacation, taking time to rest, allows you to be able to sit down and be like, man, I feel like I haven't seen you for a month. Like, how are you?
Yes.
Right? But again, it takes intentionality, because even on vacation, like if you're go, or I want to do this and she wants to do that, or whatever, you can just kind of bring those same habits into your rest. And so there has to be that intentionality there.
Gosh, I mean, there's so many things, John. One of the things that has hit me for years is this passage in Hebrews 4. I won't read all of it. I encourage you to go read Hebrews 4. 1 through 11 is powerful, but there are people who are invited to enter God's rest and they choose not to. And then he says, they shall not. So listen to this. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, God would not have spoken of another day later on. So then there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works as God did from his. And he says, let us strive, therefore, to enter that rest. And I know, you guys, that it's easy to talk about it, and it's just one more thing that feels stressful. Now I got to slow down. Yeah, actually be intentional to do that. Strive, that word literally is the root of strife. Like it's strife to fight for something, but this to fight to slow down, fight to rest in the Lord, fight to connect with Him and to connect with others, to slow down enough to where you don't check your phone, you don't check another screen. You've got this half an hour, 45 minutes with the Lord, an hour, or you've got a half an hour uninterrupted with your spouse or with your friends or with your children, with your grandchildren. It's one of the things, the baseball season being off my plate now. I got more time to see people, and I like it, and I'm slowing down.
Yeah.
A little bit at least.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the benefits of rest. I mean, the opposite of those things are going to be your negatives, right? If you if you don't rest, you're going to have physical issues. You're going to have mental issues. You're going to have damage to relationships. The converse of the things we just talked about as positives are going to be the negatives if you're not resting. And so it's pretty self-explanatory. But what are let's switch gears a little bit. So we talked about resting, right? And you talked earlier about the idea of laziness, slothful, sitting around playing video games all day, right? There's dangers of too much rest as well. Like we're like, oh, cool, Aaron and John said I should rest, so I'm just gonna sit back and not do anything.
Because people listen to us like that.
Yeah, I mean we've got that kind of pull. So let's say they did, right?
Right.
So what are the dangers of too much rest?
You can definitely get into the stuck in the mud, right? There's that old saying, don't just sit there, do something. And so sound like what we're saying in the beginning, right? Is like, you've got to slow down. So don't just do something, sit there. But the very easy thing for us is to get lazy with dealing with conviction, lazy with dealing with physical things that are going on. But like COVID, it did absolute damage to people's relationships, and still lots and lots of bad fruit coming from that. A lot of other cool things happened, but like people connected online because they couldn't go to their churches or whatever. Some people haven't come back yet.
Yeah.
And that's a damage, is relational. We just kind of sit around. That's a laziness. It may not even be necessarily a physical laziness, although, and some of you have said this, right? Oh, I get to stay home in my jammies, watch it on the screen. Sunday gets to be just a chill day. I don't want to take a chill day away from you. I'm wondering if that's maybe an excuse to not do that deeper work, which I think is part of rest, and enter in like I want to be with other people who are corporately worshiping the Lord and all that. But that's one of the damages, one of the bad fruit, right? And Jesus said, you got a bad tree, it's got bad fruit. If your rest is because you just want to check out, you're going to become lazy and slothful in some of the most important things. And most of that's going to be love and relationships. Then it can be your heart, right? Me, I'm flabby. I don't work out nearly as much as I did even 10 years ago. And so that's bad for my body. Extra weight, tough on the ticker. We can just be like, oh, it's just hard.
Yeah.
So I just give myself a break. And that break turns into a decade.
Yeah, so just like we talked about the benefits of your physical health, your mental health with resting, there's actually too much rest can be a detriment to your physical health and your mental health, right? I know for me, if I just, come home from work and be like, man, it's been a long day, I'm just kind of worn out, I'm just gonna watch some TV or whatever. And then, 5 hours later, I haven't moved, I haven't done anything productive. I don't generally feel better.
No.
I generally feel, if it's psychologically, I feel worse. Even physically, I feel worse in a lot of ways. I just feel kind of groggy and just tired,
lethargic.
Lethargic. And so it's a fine line. And then again, we'll come back to the word intentionality. There needs to be some intentionality, some discipline. You talked about, because you do actually end up with mental health risks, especially this day and age. When what do we do a lot of times when we're resting? We're scrolling. Right, we're on social media, we're on screens, inevitably when we're on those things, we're seeing trying to keep up with the Joneses and look at how
Grass
great
is greener.
yeah, look at how great that person has it, and I don't have it that good, and so our rest actually becomes not restful, and
I've
it can be
noticed
damaging.
Yes, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
There's a weird. I don't even want to say that this is a one-off, but I just talked with somebody last week about this. They find themselves scrolling, and it's what is the right word that they used? It's like trauma porn. They see other people's trauma and dramas, and it's like get the popcorn going because they're like, my life isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And they find themselves scrolling for that, not even comparing in a way like, gosh, I don't have what they have. Like, at least I don't suck like that, right? It's like, oh my
Their
goodness.
kids are a mess. Good, my kids aren't like that. Yeah.
Ooh, that kind of thing. I think with too much time on your hands, too much time sitting around, not serving, not giving of yourself. Jesus said you want to be great. He didn't say sit down for 24 hours.
Yeah.
He didn't say not rest, but he said you want to be great. Be the servant of people. Like, get yourself out there. So please don't hear us saying, you guys, like, look, you got to go from one extreme to the other. We need to be intentional about balance, which is such a tricky word, but we do need to rest, and we need to, what is it, the Augustine, you're restless until you find rest in Christ. And then you've got this, like, look, I know when it's time to get up and move. I know when it's time to slow down. And that is this continual slowing down enough to hear the Lord, and he tells you when to go and when to slow,
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things for me that has been such a big benefit. And this is very convicting. I need to get back to that intentionality. And I find every day I pray, every day I'm in the word intentionally, but like really just kind of me and the Lord. Might be the cool of the day, which for me is going to be way earlier than I normally get up.
Yeah. So I think we're getting probably a little short on time. So let's maybe wrap this up with some ways to kind of distinguish between proper rest and laziness or escapism. We haven't really used that word escapism yet, but I think a lot of times we try to use the excuse of I need rest to really just escape.
Like a vegism.
Yeah, like vegging or just trying to get away from people or problems or whatever. And there's probably some element of that that's good. Because you do need proper rest, right? You do need adequate rest. But a lot of times I think, like I said, we maybe use that as an excuse to just escape. You get away in an unproductive way or a non-restful way, but more of just a self-preservation kind of way. So what are maybe some ways we can distinguish? Like if we're trying to evaluate, do I rest well? What are some ways that we can maybe look at that helps us determine?
You guys sound so easy to say, but what draws me to more Christ likeness? How am I looking like him? He got away multiple times to rest and got interrupted. But when he got away with his Father and prayed and was just him, after that, significant stuff happened. I'm not saying you're going to walk on water after you go have your quiet time.
Let us know if you do.
I mean, that'd be rad, actually. But I do mean like you get to be more like Jesus, where you slow down, you spend time with the Lord in prayer, you spend time in worship, you spend time in the Word, and you find yourself drawn to serving, to giving, to repenting, to transformation. So I think that's one good way I would say that you could measure, am I slowing down in the right ways? Am I drawing near to Jesus? Am I being more like him?
Yeah, I think that's a good barometer. It's like when I come out of this, do I look more or less like Jesus? Right?
Amen.
If you're looking less like Jesus, you might need to reevaluate how you're doing it
and what you're doing. Maybe.
But yeah, we come back to the word we've used several times throughout this podcast and other podcasts: intentionality, purpose. It's not just plop down and let everything go.
No.
Right. There needs to be some amount of intentionality. It doesn't need to. I mean, if your rest is so regimented and scheduled, that it stresses you out, that's probably not effective either.
Oh
Right?
gosh,
But there needs to be some amount of intentionality,
that's
some amount
ironic.
of purpose, right? Because we talked about the idea of it being rejuvenating, kind of
Yes.
invigorating. So what are the things that really just breathe life into you? Is it nature? Is it people? Is it reading the Word? Is it reading books? Is it what is it that really invigorates you? And then just be intentional about trying to do those things.
That's good. So
Right.
would people who get reinvigorated being around other people, is there an answer for some of those extroverts that you can actually be around them too much, like slowing down and backing up? Because for me and lots of other people, you get it reinvigorated being around people.
Sure.
So what would your advice be to somebody who says, "Yeah, John, I get it, but I'm not just invigorated by rest. I'm invigorated by being around people, by doing things, by getting things done."
Well, and so I mean, kind of it brings the next point I had on how do you distinguish is balance and moderation,
Come on.
right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that you have to be all isolated and by yourself to get proper rest. I think you can get rest by being around other people. You can be reinvigorated,
That's good.
rejuvenated,
That's
right?
really good.
Being around other people, but that can also very much drain you. And so it is a balance. You also have to ask, why am I around those people? Because if you're around them because you're at an event that has a bunch of work to do, there's going to be some give and take. Right? Maybe there's some invigoration because you're around people, but there's also some wear and tear because you're doing stuff.
That's
Right?
really good. Yep.
So if you're just having people over for dinner and you're hanging out and you're investing in relationship, that could be rest, and that can be invigorating because you're with people and that's something that invigorates you. But if it's something like just totally crazy and overwhelming and work, then you may say it's invigorating because you got to have good conversations or whatever, but it maybe ultimately isn't. And so again, it's balance and moderation. Like with most of the things that we talk about, you can't go too far one way or the other, and you probably need to do some correcting and pulling back to center, right?
Yes.
And evaluating what is happening. And I know some people, being around people absolutely drains them, right? And so you do probably need to get away a little bit, and I don't want to say isolate because that's got maybe a negative connotation, but just have some time on your own or with maybe a smaller group of people or a person or whatever, and not have that drain that it comes from having a lot of people. And people are different. Like my wife she's around people all the time, and so being away from people will help her rest and get invigorated. Where I'm not around that many people, on Sundays I am, but rest of the week just a few people. And so I like being around people. I want to. It's encouraging, it's uplifting, it's fun, and so that invigorates me.
Gosh, that's good.
And so we've got to just find that balance and that moderation. And if you've got a spouse, then that can cause maybe some issues on what is rest for me isn't rest for you, and vice versa. And so how do you balance that? But balance and moderation is important.
I think there's a blessing to singleness that the church doesn't talk about enough, and I think that might be one of them. I got something to end with. Where are we at on this? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, I think I've got maybe one or two additional ways to kind of distinguish, but
that's one of them. I think it's coming off of something I looked up earlier today, and it's Mark 3. Talk about distinguishing. Jesus again enters the synagogue. There's a man there with a withered hand, and they're watching Jesus to see if he's going to heal him because it's on the Sabbath, and they wanted to accuse him. And so he says to the man with the withered hand, "Come up here." And then he asks this question. I think it's such a good question for us in this conversation. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill? And they were silent. They couldn't answer him. What is your life? Is there good? Is there life? Is there harm? Is there killing of something? I think that is going to be such a good question for us. And that's a good question for me. And it's convicting. I didn't even think about it here until the end. But here's something that Jesus modeled for us. What's the Sabbath for? We talked about earlier, but is it doing good or is it doing harm? And that's not just in the eye of the beholder. That's in what God says is good. Life is good, giving life, helping, instilling something that's going to be uplifting, encouraging. Now I'm starting to sound like a commercial for K-Love, but I mean,
Positive, encouraging.
oh gosh, man. But I mean, seriously, by the way, you know how he ends that? Stretch out your hand, he's healed, you're made whole. That's what God came. He wants you and I to be whole.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to end on. Because if you're trying to figure out, 'cause one of the things that to distinguish is you need to have some self-awareness and some reflection.
And that
Right.
people that can speak truth to you too,
Yeah.
right?
And so maybe do some evaluation. And are the things that you're going to for rest, are those ultimately life-giving for you and for those around you, or are they not? Right? And if they're not, you're probably not doing it right. Right? You should come away from rest feeling, again, rejuvenated. It's going to contribute to an overall well-being and overall growth of you as a person if you're resting well. And so if you don't feel like you're having that overall growth or positive well-being, then you're probably not doing it right.
Oh,
and so
good.
evaluate how you're resting. When you come out of that period, how are you feeling? What's the fruit? What are the results of that? If it's just exhaustion and frustration and anger and poor relationship and whatever, then you need to probably think of different ways to rest.
Oh, entering into his rest would bring about good fruit.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Cool.
Thanks, you guys. Should we pray?
Yeah, let's do it.
Why don't you hit it?
All right. Lord, we thank you so much for this chance to talk about this. It's something that a lot of times we just rush past. We want to just get things done and be on to the next thing. And you have designed us for rest. You have modeled rest for us and what it looks like. And so I pray that we would be intentional, like we've talked about so much in this conversation, that we would be intentional first and foremost in finding our rest in you, because you are ultimately the one that provides that for us, and where we get the most nourishment and the most benefit is resting in you and what you say about us and what you have for us. And so I pray that would be our perspective, that would be our priority. And then as we just try to find that rest physically, mentally, that we would let you dictate what that looks like, that we would reflect and see how you have designed us, and that we pay attention to that, because that's going to go a long way to helping us rest properly and adequately and ultimately in the best way possible. And so I pray that you just guide us, give us that wisdom, and give us that rest that we long for, but we don't always seem to make the time for. And so we thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you've done for us, and pray that you lead us in this as we go. In your name, amen.
Amen. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us on the first time of having this streamed.
Yeah, so we would love to have your feedback, your comments. Let us know about this topic. Let us know what other topics you want us to hit. Let us know what you think about the video if you're watching the video. And be sure to join us May 30th right here at Crosswater Church.
This very room.
For Pastors and Pizza Live. We're going to have pizza for free for you. We'd love to see you and hang out with you.
We're having live pizza?
We are having pizza live. It's not alive.
Oh, gosh. I was like, what does that even mean?
So we'll have pizza for you. Join us. Let us know you're coming. crosswaterchurch.org/events. Find the Pastors and Pizza Live event and let us know. And we'll catch you next time on Pastors and Pizza.
Peace. This has been Pastors and Pizza, a production of Crosswater Community Church in Sultan, Washington.
Check us out online at crosswaterchurch.org. We meet every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. on the corner of 3rd and Birch in Sultan, Washington.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave us that 5-star review, and we hope to see you soon.
See you later.
Bye now.